Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Hernandez. Today, we talked about the importance of studying on your own and how having those skills and practicing those skills is going to become more important as you get older. Right now, you're a fifth grader going into sixth grade and into middle school. And in middle school, high school, college, or in your jobs, it's going to become more and more important that you are able to figure out what you don't know, how to learn it, or how to study something, and to stay informed about things that are not only going on in your life and in the world, but also things that you need to know about so that you can get better at your job or whatever it is you're trying to do. Whether it's planting a garden or knowing how to fix a sink or even just learning about something cool you saw on TV. So one of the ways that we're going to do that is by watching a video. The video is World War II, which I gave you the login for as part of the assignment. And what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to be taking some notes because this is a topic that we're going to be learning about more as a class as we go through the next 4 weeks. So you're going to get to watch me watch the video and react to the video, so to speak. And then at the same time, we're going to be working together, you and I, on our notes. So what you need to make sure you do is make sure you have your paper, your straight edge, or something to write with, or something to draw your lines for, the Cornell notes, and a writing utensil. All right, and we'll get right on that. Okay, so I have my video set up. I have my notes ready to go, and I can just start. Right, I should just be able to start playing the video and do whatever I need to do. Not quite. See, before we start watching the video and before we start taking in any new material, whether it is reading a book, an article, a movie, a comic book, whatever, if you're going to be studying it, if you're going to be trying to learn something from it, you need to make sure that you ask yourself some questions before you get started. First things first, what do I already know about the topic? And that's the kind of stuff that I'm going to be filling out in my thinking space. So, World War II, I might have learned about it in other classes. I might have heard about it in movies. Maybe I've played some video games that were World War II that you shouldn't have played. But anyways, you might have learned some stuff about it already. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're going to make notes of. Right? So, for example, I know that it was a war. It was a war that took over the whole world. I also know that the US was part of it. Germany was part of it. I know that Japan and a bunch of other countries were part of it too. I also know that it lasted for a pretty long time. A lot of people died. It was a very, very bad time. And I know that in the end, the United States and the Allies were able to win. So after I made notes of the stuff that I do know, I'm going to go ahead and start watching the video.
With the Allied advances in the Ruhr Valley, the German army was on the run.
It was saying a bunch of names and stuff I didn't know, so I was like, what is that? But it looks like it's a TV show. I think this is just a hook to get us interested in the video.
Incendiary bombing reduced the industrial city of Wuppertal to rubble.
Every time I come in here, you're watching some World War II shit.
100,000 refugees fled the fires.
You guys don't have this anymore, but back in the day, the History Channel, before it was all like gold diggers and like American pickers and whatever, and like people lost in the woods, it used to be about actual history. So if you turn it on, it's like you could almost make a bet that it would be like something about World War II, and then turn it on, it's like ta-da, World War II stuff. Not so much anymore, but definitely what it used to be, and it used to be a joke that was like that's all you're gonna find in that channel.
Storm, scattering into the countryside. Such was the sorry toll of total war.
Dear Tim and Moby, can you give me a rundown of World War II? From Primo.
Okay, so right now they've just showed us what the video is going to be about, right? Excellent. I'm watching the right video. It's about World War II. That's what I wanted. Have you noticed that I've been kind of like stopping and talking a lot the last couple minutes? The reason for that is because I'm actually not going to watch this video just one time. I'm going to watch it multiple times. This first time, I'm just learning what it's about. Like just getting a brief overview. I'm not taking notes in my response space. Not yet. I'll do that on my second viewing, maybe even my third viewing. This video is only 5-6 minutes long, 6 minutes and 20 seconds. You might say, what? I need to watch the video like 3 times? Not necessarily, but it's always a good idea to watch or reread something multiple times to make sure that you truly understand it. All right, let's get back in here. Now I know that my topic is World War II, and I'm ready to go. I'm going to be priming myself, asking myself questions. If I think something's interesting, I'm going to stop and write it down. In my thinking space, just quick little notes. No deep analysis right now.
Oh, so now you're with me. World War II was fought between the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan, and the Allied powers, England, France, the Soviet Union, the US, and a lot of other smaller countries. Germany was the major aggressor in World War II. It was led by Adolf Hitler, a totalitarian dictator. That means he controlled every aspect of life in the country. Hitler rose to power as the leader of the Nazi Party, a German political party. The Nazis took control by promising a glorious future for Germany and stoking anger over the Treaty of Versailles.
Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. We just got told about it. The Germans were led by a guy named Hitler. He was in control of something called the Nazis, and they were like, "We're gonna be absolute power." Okay, I could write that down in my thinking space. Okay, like, why did people like Hitler? Okay, maybe that's one of my questions. Or what did the Nazis do? Right?
Peace agreement that ended World War I in 1919. Germany had agreed to pay huge sums of money to the winners and shrink its military way down. It also
They just told me what this Treaty of Versailles was. Okay, after World War One, Germany was one of the losers of the war, and so they got told by the winners, like France and England, that they had to pay money for the war and that they had to reduce the amount of soldiers and military that they had, and that basically it's like, you lost, you owe me money, and also you can't have an army anymore because you're doing bad things with them. That kind of stuff, right?
gave up big chunks of territory, one of which split the
He
country
said the
in two.
Germans were a master race,
Hitler vowed to get
superior to
revenge
all
for
the
this
people.
humiliation.
It was their
He said the
destiny to be
Germans
the
were
most
a
powerful
master
nation on
race,
earth.
superior to all other people.
They were a master race, and they were superior to everybody, and it was their destiny to be the superior power on earth. So already I know that he's a racist in the sense that he doesn't think that anybody who's not German is good enough. And even if you were German, but you weren't the right type of German, you were not good enough.
It was their destiny to be the most powerful nation on earth. They would rule over the inferior races, which was basically everyone else.
We messed up. Rule over everybody else. Rule over the inferior races. There's no such thing as an inferior race. Everybody should know that already. If you don't, I'm happy to be the person that teaches you this. Nobody is less or more than anyone else because of the way that they were born. Okay?
Hitler reserved a special hatred for Jewish people. He blamed them for Germany's problems, including the defeat in World War I. At first, the world stood by as Hitler began his quest for total power.
So he blamed a group of people. They were a minority called the Jewish people. It's an ethnicity and a religion. He blamed them for World War I. He said, "Oh, the reason why we lost was because the Jewish people, they were keeping all their money and they didn't support us and they didn't back up the Germany. So all the German citizens who are Jewish, it's their fault that we lost. They're the ones who are making us all weak. They're the ones who are being bad." Saying all these lies to try to get people angry and saying like, "Yeah, that's why. Yeah," and getting rid of people, arresting people, so that he and his party would have more power, so that he and his power and his group of people, the party that was with him, would have more control of the government and more control of the country.
No one wanted to spark another world war. In 1938, he sent troops into Austria, which gave up without much fight. A few months after that, he took over part of Czechoslovakia. It was hoped that he would be satisfied with these two conquests.
What's going on? Well, after World War I, when the entire world was fighting each other, and that's why it's called World War, people were really tired of fighting. They're just like, war is awful. Nobody wins in war, and this is true. Nobody wins in war. It's like, it just causes destruction and pain to people, and it's not a good time. It's not good for anybody. So Germany was doing this stuff. They were invading different countries. They were taking back territories that were like before were German. So a lot of the countries like France and England and the surrounding countries were like, okay, you know what? That's not cool. But maybe if we like let him do it, he'll just chill and he'll calm down and he'll be like, that's fine. He's just getting back parts of Germany anyways. But that wasn't quite the case.
But soon he was demanding the part of Poland that Germany had given up after World War I. Britain and France agreed to defend Poland against any aggression. Then, on September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland. 2 days later, both Britain and France declared war on Germany. At this point, the Soviet Union was actually on Germany's side.
So we have different sides and we have reasons why they're fighting, right? Why did the World War II start? I guess you can say that it started because Germany invaded different countries, right? So that's something that maybe I'll put in my thinking space. I'll say, okay, World War II started. because of Germany invading countries.
So the two countries divided Poland between them.
And it seems like Germany had a ally, someone helping them out in the Russia or Soviet side, right? So maybe I'll write down Soviets helped Germany take Poland.
The Soviets took the eastern part, while the Germans occupied the western half. The German army went on to defeat Denmark, Norway, and Luxembourg. Then, over just 6 weeks in 1940, they overran the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Their style of war was known as blitzkrieg, which means lightning war. It was a fast, overwhelming invasion. Britain was left to fight the Nazis alone. The German Luftwaffe, or Air Force, used France as a base to attack England by air. When the British refused to surrender, the Luftwaffe began the Blitz. It was a relentless bombing campaign targeting London and other cities. But England's Royal Air Force, or RAF, managed to successfully defend their country. The U.S. stayed out of the fighting, but supplied England with naval support, weapons, and equipment.
We call that neutral. They're like not taking a side. So you're saying you're neutral. You're like, or I'm isolated. I'm by myself here. I'm not taking part of the fight.
Germany expanded its alliances by signing the Tripartite Pact with Japan and Italy.
Oh, so this Germany made a deal with someone else, Italy and Japan. So maybe I'll write that down, right?
Meanwhile, the Nazi regime had begun arresting, deporting, and killing Jews and other minorities. This was the start of the Holocaust, the systematic murder of 6 million Jews. You can learn
We're going to learn about the Holocaust next week.
more about that in our Holocaust movie. In 1941, the global balance shifted again. Germany broke its pact with the Soviet Union, launching an invasion of its former ally. It proved to be a fatal mistake. The Germans suffered huge losses fighting the massive Soviet army and the bitter Russian winter.
So Germany was allied with Russia when they took Poland, but then they decided to attack Russia to get even more land, more power. Let's make it an inference or a prediction of what we think is going to happen. Now that Germany attacked Russia, who was helping them before, what do I think Russia's going to do now?
They were forced to retreat. Plus, they secured themselves a new enemy as the Soviet Union joined the global fight against them. Germany's chances of winning the war were getting very slim. But Hitler refused to give in. He would rather see his country destroyed than surrender. The United States finally entered the war after getting attacked on home soil. On December 7, 1941, Japan bombed the naval port at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. In response, the U.S. joined up with the Allies and sent troops to 3 areas or theaters of war.
So because the United States was attacked in Pearl Harbor, which is in Hawaii, by Japan, well, they attacked, and America said, and America went ahead and defended itself and joined the war.
One was the Pacific Theater, to fight Japan in an island-hopping campaign. In the Mediterranean Theater, the Allies fought the Axis powers in North Africa and Italy. And finally, a massive force of Americans, British, and Canadians was sent to fight in France.
This is happening in the Pacific. This is happening in Africa. This is happening in Europe. This was another world war. Everything and everyone was in some way affected.
This was the Western Front of the European theater. More than 160,000 troops crossed the English Channel from Britain. They landed on the beaches of Normandy on the morning of June 6, 1944. This invasion is known as D-Day. The Allies sustained heavy losses but won a key victory. Germany was now trapped between 2 Allied fronts, Europe in the west and the Soviet Union in the east. After 5 years and millions of lives lost, the end of the war was finally in sight. German cities were flattened as the Allies pushed in from both sides. When it was clear there was no escape, Hitler took his own life. A week later, on May 7, 1945, Germany surrendered.
So Germany, the country, surrendered. The European theater of war, where people were fighting in Europe, was more or less over, and now they could start working on reconstruction and making everything trying to get everything back to some sort of normal or some sort of new life, right? Now, in the Pacific, in the ocean, with all the islands in Japan, there was still fighting going on.
In the Pacific, the Japanese were still holding off American forces. President Truman took a drastic step to end the war. He dropped nuclear bombs on 2 civilian cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's the only time the atom bomb has ever been used in war.
The reason why the president agreed to do that had to do with deciding whether or not it was worth it to send all these soldiers to go fight, or if it was better and maybe easier to just bomb a city and destroy and kill everybody in it. Even today, people are still debating about whether or not that was the right choice. But in the end, after those 2 bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the war did end. And so there's people who say, one side or the other about which one it is. The more we learn about stuff and the more we study and the better we get at understanding how we feel and how other people feel around us and our world around us, the better we are at being able to think about these things and understand them. And the better off we'll be at making our own opinions on this stuff.
Japan surrendered in August 1945. So that's World War II, the basics. Does that answer all your questions? Well, that's what school is for. I have a life too, you know.
Now that we finished watching the video for the first time, we're going to watch it again. By the second time, we're going to be filling out our response, the section where I write the summary or what the video was actually about. Not so much my questions or little facts and things that I find interesting, but more or less me actually taking notes about what's going on. How should I arrange my notes so that they're clear and they make sense to me? If we think back all the way to the beginning of the year, the first semester, when we're talking about how text is organized, I talked to you guys about 4 ways that informational text was organized. It could be descriptive, and it will be organized in a way that describes an object or a thing or an event. It could be sequential, in which a series of events are explained to me in order that it happened. It could be cause and effect, in which an event is explained and then the effects of that event are explained too. Or it could be compare and contrast, where we look at one thing compared to another or a few more things. And you'll be able to choose the best notes for your assignment. After you pick a graphic organizer, go ahead and draw it on the top half of your page. And then on the bottom half, you're going to write a 2-paragraph description of what the video was about. Fill out both, and then answer the top question at the bottom. For the top question, I want you to answer this. What are the questions do you still have about World War II? What other things would you like to learn more about that will help you understand this topic better? Make a list of those questions in that thought space. Come up with at least 3. When you finish, upload it onto the assignment page. Now, there is also another video that you're going to need to watch, and that is the causes of World War II, which is also on brainpop and which I will also link to right here in the assignment. This video is going to explain a little bit more of the why some of the actions that took place happened. And I want you to make a page of notes the same way that we made the notes for this video. Okay?